fine arts path. I went to UC Santa Cruz as a painter, so I got my degree there, undergrad degree, and then after like a year or so off, I went to Otis, College of Art and Design in LA, and that was a really interesting experience in that I was painting in the beginning, and it was a very conceptual, heavy program. It was kind of run by this old 70s conceptualist named John Knight. And so, in a really interesting way, it kind of made me question and evaluate what I was doing as a painter and start to kind of take my ideas and find different outlets for them, I guess. So in terms of sculpture or video or whatever, the idea kind of lent itself to. So I was there for 2 years, and then, I was showing fairly regularly around LA and a couple other places, but it was nice to have that kind of peer group through school, through Otis, that would have shows and put me in shows, and so. But at the same time, simultaneously, I was still kind of keeping up this cartooning practice. I was doing a lot of teaching after school, so I was doing these teaching chronicle comics, kind of about my experiences, and just like kind of one-off cartoons. And so, basically, how I ended up at Dark Pants is that I just decided to commit to like one project because I was kind of spreading myself thin, making sculptures and video and everything.
Right. So specificity.
Yeah. So I knew that I was going to get married in 2013, and I knew, shortly after that I was going to have a child. So I was just like, I need to just focus on one thing and kind of simplify my life a little bit. Mm-hmm. So that's a long story of how I came to Dark Pants, I guess.
Well, yeah, I think it's really interesting how when you are in fine arts, you just give your heart and soul over to it, and I mean, that's the way it was for me. That sounds like that was the way it was for you. At the same time, because I know I was doing painting, and I was also doing comics. I did a comic strip in my college paper while I was also going to crits and the whole thing. And you love that support system. There is you can get that now at the study for the Center for Cartoon Studies and such places, and the sequential art workshop that Tom Hart puts on, and that's does that blow your mind that now we have that? We didn't have that maybe when we were growing up, but
yeah, I kind of wish that was there. I mean, I really value my instruction at Otis. I thought it enriched kind of what I was working on. But I kind of knew I'd eventually return to comics. Like, I don't know if it's exclusively for the rest of my life, but I feel like at least for this period. And I think a lot of the more interesting art being produced right now is made by cartoonists. People who are making these graphic novels, or even like the more abstract kind of the out there stuff. I really love, and I just think it's such a great art form. I can't take myself away from it for too long. I just end up gravitating toward it again.
Yeah, what's your take on the whole idea of the comics medium? And that's been going on for how many years now? Last 15, 20 years, it's become a concept that's being more and more ingrained into the conversation, and I think there's still a ways to go, and maybe more of these definitive art show retrospectives, and it'll really just bring home the point even more. I think we're there. We're kind of living it right now. It's hard to see sometimes as you're actually living this phenomenon. But what's your take on the comics medium? Because there's like multiple questions here, but how would you compare? To starters, how would you compare the comic scene with the art scene? Are you seeing more overlap, or where do you see it right now? How would you articulate that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like still a new art form. I feel like in a lot of ways, and that's why it's so exciting. It's constantly evolving, and I kind of shy away a little bit of from the art world, the contemporary art world, kind of co-opting or absorbing some of these cartoonists and comic artists, because I feel like it can stand on its own. It doesn't need that the crutch of the art world in a way. But I guess in some ways it's good that it's kind of validating comics as an art form, and I don't know. I feel like it all started when I was at Santa Cruz, and I'm more of an elitist when it comes to comics. I only like one type of comic. I wish I could say I love all comics, but I'm not a huge fan of superhero comics. I really like the indie stuff. I like the alternative stuff. I like the stuff where it's just one creator creating everything. Some of my favorites are Daniel Clowes. Obviously, he's such an influence on me. I feel like the big three. I mean, well, there's a lot more, obviously, but I love Chris Ware, obviously, and Adrian Tomine, and there's so many. There's Doucet, and there's Bleckner, and there's just so many. But I just love how they there is that art background, that kind of fine art background, in terms of the storytelling, and also the way the story is delivered, that I just really find fascinating, I guess.
I know, and that's what I was drawn to with your work, and other people, of course. But maybe the way that you look at the world, the way you draw, I kind of feel a similarity with what I'm doing. And well, let's jump into the Dark Pants universe. Could you tell us, were there some precursors to it? We can start there. Were there some little things that you were doing before you got into the graphic novel, or was it one thing all to itself?
Well, yeah, like I said, I was mostly doing just one-off, kind of punchliney one-pagers.
Slice of life? Slice of life stuff? Slice of life?
Well, the Teaching Chronicles was definitely slice of life, but the other stuff was kind of really more absurd, abstract kind of stuff.
Okay.
But jokey at the same time. And then, I don't know, I felt like I really wanted something that I could bite into, and I guess a lot of my stuff was just instant gratification. I just wanted to see it done and see what it looked like, and I was like, well, what if I had some delayed gratification? I worked on something for, at least a good 6 months or so. So yeah, I don't know if you want me to talk about.
I was just going to cut in here to keep guiding our conversation. I think that the fact that you've got these dark, tight jeans as your motif, that's an artist or fine art sensibility, I think, and it's great how you have this rolling through the stories. Do you have a way that you could articulate the Dark Pants universe? I say kind of facetiously, the Dark Pants universe, because you have very specific times and very specific LA locales. Do you have the whole thing mapped out, or are you still working through things? Or?
I'm kind of working. I definitely have the next. I'm finishing up issue 3 right now, which is going to be taking place in Silver Lake. All my stories take place. Dark Pants stories take place in some neighborhood in Los Angeles, and they, like you mentioned, they kind of jump around in time chronologically. But this next one's going to be in the 80s in Silver Lake, so I guess I kind of want. I mean, it sounds cliche, but I want the neighborhoods to function like a character, and also be. I want there to be the landmarks present. Like people will recognize this area when they see it depicted in my comics. I have specific restaurants or bookstores or whatever, streets, whatever, happen to be in that town. And so in some ways the story kind of reflects the personality of the place a little bit. Maybe not as much in the first one, but definitely I wanted the second one, Milena, the character, is an Armenian girl, and so there's a large Armenian community in Glendale, so I wanted her to kind of reflect the community there. Yeah. And then the Silver Lake one is maybe even more determined, or I guess thought out, in terms of during the 80s, Silver Lake was the site of a big riot in regards to police basically raiding a gay bar, because there was a pretty large gay community in Silver Lake in the 80s, and so that was the precursor to the Stonewall riots and stuff in New York. So I wanted the character kind of reflect that in a way, that this kid that's kind of and figuring out what his sexuality is, and then, you know, kind of experimenting with different things. So,